on the crime of malice murder, I sentence you to life in confinement without parole.
The following stories tell the tale of young parents who abandoned their voice of reason and did the worst. They took the lives of their newborn babies. This story begins in the small town of Carlisle, Ohio. Brooke Skylar Richardson was your average high school girl. She had a lot of friends, was a cheerleader, and was present at all sports events in town.
Skylar Richardson, by all accounts, was a good student. She was well liked at Carlisle High School. She was a cheerleader.
But Skylar had some issues that she didn't want to talk about with anyone.
She had some issues. She had been sexually abused by a boy that she was interested in when she was in junior high, and she had been diagnosed by a psychologist with dependent personality disorder, meaning she craves approval and attention from authority figures.
Skylar's issues were not made any better by her mom. When Skylar developed an eating disorder, her mom would encourage it.
It almost seemed like Kim Richardson was living vicariously through her daughter. Kim Richardson was telling her daughter, she was kind of jealous of her being at the gym and being able to work out, and she was also cheering her on to lose weight despite having an eating disorder.
In April 2017, Kim booked Skylar a visit at her OB/GYN in order to get contraceptives. But Skylar would find out something that shook her to the core. She was 8 months pregnant. Somehow, her belly had barely even grown. It's likely Skylar suspected something but told no one. After all, 8 months without a period is a really long time. Imagine the shock of that news. For an 18-year-old girl who was obsessed with her body, even worse, the baby's father, Trey Johnson, was another high school boy Skylar had a fling with the previous summer. Skylar simply panicked in the doctor's room.
She said that she was not prepared to deliver a baby. She could not have a baby.
But Skylar decided to take her secret to the grave. To the baby's grave.
Her mother believed if she ever had a child at this point in her life that it would ruin her life. She wouldn't be able to go to college. She wouldn't get a job.
8 months pregnant, Skylar put on a dress and went to prom. Neither her family nor her friends knew about her secret.
She's fully aware that she's pregnant. She knows that this life is growing within her, but yet she's got to keep this secret. She's got to keep it hidden from her mom, her dad, all of her friends.
In July 2017, Skylar visited her OB/GYN again, asking for contraceptive pills. The obvious question was, where's the baby? Skylar's very strange reaction got her arrested that very same day. Apparently, Skylar had her baby in the bathroom of her home, with her parents downstairs, unaware. When her baby girl was born, she was lifeless. So, Skylar dug a hole in her backyard and buried her newborn there.
I had the baby and I didn't.
Okay, hold on a second. When you say you had the baby, where were you?
I was in my bathroom. It just came out when I pushed and it wasn't breathing. It didn't make any noises.
The police did believe that Skylar's baby girl, who she named Annabelle, was born without a heartbeat. But they did not agree with her burying her newborn baby. What if she could have been saved? Couldn't she have called 911? Her desire to keep it all a secret got the better of her.
This was not well thought out. This was a kind of a hurried, frenzied event where the remains were disposed of in a very shallow location, to mention a deceased person that she's just given birth to. So that makes this all the more ominous.
And even creepier, it seems that Skylar's obsession with staying slim and masking the baby from everyone else is what caused her baby's death. 3 nights before giving birth, Skylar went to the prom in a tight dress. Skylar's case immediately made headlines throughout the country, triggering opposing reactions. On the one hand, people felt bad for Skylar, who had to go through this whole ordeal alone. scared of what her parents might say or do if they knew. On the other hand, people were enraged, calling her a baby killer and sending her and her family death threats. Skylar's friends and classmates would now line up in front of her house to take pictures, and they would mock her online, with others outright calling her for death. Her mother, Kim, remembers,
"The worst nightmare. Our lives have been completely turned upside down."
But Skylar's prosecutors pointed out her behavior right after giving birth. She was back at the gym as if nothing happened, working double hard to lose all the belly fat. She would even brag about her new look to her mom. However, when her parents visited her at the police station, it was Skylar's dad who was supportive. Her mom was worried about her neighbors' opinions of them.
If you go to jail, it's in the papers, it's everywhere. The neighbors have already called me. Krista already called me, and I know she was telling me that they're digging up stuff in her backyard. You're going to be on the news. How do you think Men's and Pax and Bill and Janet will feel?
That's right. Shame your daughter amidst all of this. A few days later, a forensics examiner said there might be signs of burning on Annabelle's body. When the police asked Skylar if she cremated Annabelle, at first she swore she didn't. But the police kept asking questions, and she gave in. Then Skylar broke down and said she thinks she heard her baby making a gurgling noise, and it was then that she accidentally killed her by squeezing her too hard.
It's okay, you can't. It's okay, you were trying.
Skylar was charged with aggravated murder, child endangerment, and gross abuse of a corpse. Skylar went to trial in September 2019, 2 years after the horrific ordeal. By then, the forensic pathologist said that cremation signs were too tiny to count for anything. Skylar had not killed her newborn intentionally. Her defense team argued that many teens would panic in such a situation and that the prosecution sets a dangerous precedent for criminalizing pregnant people and could lead to more erroneous charges against those who have stillbirths. Finally, there was a verdict.
With regard to count 1, we, the jury in the above captioned case, find the defendant, Brooke Skylar Richardson, not guilty of the offense of aggravated murder.
Skylar was only convicted of gross abuse of a corpse. The judge told Skylar he sees this case as the story of 2 little girls, her and Annabelle. He sentenced her to 3 years probation. A year into her probation, Skylar was going to college and had a part-time job at the lawyer firm who defended her, the only place that would hire her. Seeing these, the judge acquitted her. Some people still see her as a monster who should have served time in jail. Others see the troubled child with unaddressed issues who is too scared of her parents to ask for help. What do you think? This next story takes us to Georgia and asks a difficult question. Should everyone have a baby? Of course, the answer is not set in stone, but Christopher McNabb and Courtney Bell were 2 young substance addicts who were definitely not prepared to take care of not 1, but 2 babies. On October 7, 2017, baby Kalaya was just 14 days old when she was killed in the most gruesome way and buried in the trailer park where Chris and Courtney lived. The infant had been bitten so badly that her baby teeth, which had not yet developed, stuck out through her gums. It was Courtney who called the police to tell them that her daughter was missing. Apparently, their eldest child, Clarissa, who was 2 at the time, woke her and Chris up to tell them Kalaya was gone.
Okay, the 2-year-old woke y'all up and told y'all that the baby was gone?
Yes.
Okay.
She was kind of freaked out.
When the police found the baby wrapped in a cloth and put under a log next to the trailer park, they started unraveling the whole story. Chris and Courtney were first cousins, and yet they had 2 children together. Their trailer park home was beyond filthy, Food and clothes could hardly be told apart. What's worse, the two were heavily addicted to meth. Courtney and Chris were in a car with Courtney's family when they were called and informed Kalaya's body had been found. Chris literally jumped out of the car and ran away. Courtney, on the other hand, lied to her family, saying Kalaya was found alive. Courtney then proceeded to ask her relatives to drop her somewhere so she could get drugs. Soon, Chris was arrested and charged with 8 serious counts. Courtney herself was indicted for second-degree murder and child cruelty. Raising 2 kids in a house is indeed a recipe for disaster. What followed was a lengthy and tiresome trial, with Chris being extremely impassive and trying to avoid any sort of sentencing.
I mean, I haven't heard anything about a sentence. I was just commenting on that.
For
I
the
understand
charges.
that.
And I just wanted to know if you had anything you wanted to say to the court.
I mean, I got a lot to say. I got a lot to say, but I'm not going to be able to say half of it.
I don't know, because I don't know what you're going to say.
I'm innocent. I didn't do it.
Chris maintained his innocence for as long as he could. He insisted that just because he was fighting with Courtney, that doesn't mean he would kill their kids. He kept saying that the charges don't make any sense.
I just don't understand how you find somebody guilty of doing something to a 15-day-old baby, because there was no evidence whatsoever that proved anything about me putting my hands on my kids. I've never done it, and I never would.
Chris even said that he was beaten as a child, which is why he wouldn't do that to another child. Luckily, the judge knew all the evidence was there. His DNA, his running out of the car when he heard the body was found, and him being the only one with the motive to kill Kalaya. The judge played Chris with a question before giving him a sentence.
Yeah, I'll ask you one simple question. You claim you're innocent, so you tell me what sentence the man or woman that you claim did this should receive.
If you ever find out who did them, they deserve to be under the jail.
Okay, so they ought to get the maximum sentence.
Most definitely.
Okay. On the crime of malice murder, I sentence you to life in confinement without parole.
For Courtney, it was a more painful decision. Seeing pictures of her baby's lifeless body on a screen made her break down.
I didn't do this.
Courtney was sentenced for enabling the murder.
It wasn't that you knew about the murder, it wasn't that you anticipated the murder, it wasn't that you planned the murder, any of those things. It was simply that you created an environment that caused your children to be put second and Mr. McNabb to be put first.
The judge berated Courtney for choosing meth and ignoring her daughters, putting them in harm's way 24/7.
It's a sickness, but I tried to be a good mama. I love my babies.
The judge explained to Courtney that her idea of a good mother is not quite the norm.
The problem, Miss McNabb, is that, like most criminals, you have this version of what a good mama is that is so far from the norm that, you know, you can go anywhere in this county, talk to anybody who's watching this and say, is it a good mama?
Courtney had children with her cousin, and the two were using up so much meth, they simply weren't able to take care of their kids. Even more tragically, Courtney lived with a psychopathic criminal under her roof and had no idea. The cold way in which Chris continues to this day to maintain his innocence proves he was the worst person to raise a baby with. Our last story takes us all the way back to July 1999, once again in Ohio. Scuba diver Carl Claren decided to go for a swim in a suburban Cleveland quarry near the new house he was building. As he drove along the shallow edge of the quarry, he noticed something unusual. There was a duffel bag, and I figured there was something in there, brought it up to the yard, unzipped it, and the leg and the foot fell out. It was worse, much worse. Inside the duffel bag, there was a baby boy with a wound and a head injury. The news quickly made headlines all around the country, and the police were convinced they were looking for a monster. Instead, they found the baby's 15-year-old cheerleader mom.
This is Jessica Coleman. She was a cheerleader, she was a star athlete, an honor student, and only 15 years old when she gave birth to baby boy Hope.
No one ever suspected Jessica could do something like that. Not even her parents.
She was a role model for every young kid. She was a great sister. She had tons of friends.
But at home, the situation was different. Her dad was very strict, but her mom was quite the opposite.
My parents are divorced. When we were with my mom, you could pretty much do whatever you wanted. She's always been more comfortable in the role of a friend.
When she was a high school freshman, Jessica started dating Tom, a senior and a popular basketball player. 5 months later, she started missing her period. To Jessica, that was the end of her life.
It's as if within those few minutes that test registered, I felt like my life was completely taken away from me.
Jessica told Tom about the baby, and the two made a pact to keep the baby a secret for as long as they could. Tom would even sit on Jessica's stomach every day to prevent the belly from growing. 9 months passed, and apart from Jessica wearing baggier and baggier clothes, no one noticed anything. One day when Jessica was at school, Jessica started getting awful cramps. She had her mom pick her up and drop her off at home.
When I got home, I took some Tylenol and I went straight into my room and I laid down. My cramps started getting a lot worse. After being checked on a few times by my mom, I felt like I needed to use the restroom. And when I went to push, it's as if he fell out in the toilet.
Jessica picked her newborn baby up, but it seemed like he was already dead.
He never made any noises or moved at all by himself. And by the time I had got to my room, I had fallen on top of him.
After giving birth in her bathroom, Jessica blacked out from losing a lot of blood and had collapsed on top of baby Hope. She then proceeded to clean her baby compulsively, hoping that somehow that would save his life. Then she cut his umbilical cord and put a hair barrette on it, having read that a baby can bleed to death if the procedure is not done properly. Amidst all of this, Jessica's mom and sisters called her downstairs to dinner.
So you had just given birth in your bedroom, and how long from the time that you gave birth and went to dinner, sat at the dinner table?
I'd say maybe a half hour or so.
Jessica sat at the dinner table with her family and kept pushing herself to say something.
And this whole time I kept thinking, I need to say something right now. I need to get help while there's still possibly a chance to help him in any way. And I couldn't.
Panicked, Jessica went back upstairs and found her baby boy in the same state she'd left him in, unconscious. But Jessica wasn't sure if he was dead or simply unconscious and in pain. In a frenzied state, she figured it was best to end his pain rather than to leave him like that.
I stabbed him. I stabbed him in the chest because I thought I was taking away his pain.
Talking about the events now, Jessica knows none of it makes sense. She blames it all on panic. After stabbing her baby, Jessica put him in a duffel bag and hid him in her closet. The next day, she went to school.
The next morning, I got up to get ready just like I would any other day. And I went to the bathroom, and the afterbirth came out as I was going to the bathroom. And I remember thinking, oh my God, this cannot be happening again.
Jessica cleaned up fast and hurried to school. After school, Tom came to see her at home.
I had bundled him up and I put him back in my closet in a black duffel bag.
It was Tom who filled the bag with rocks and threw it in the quarry. Jessica never felt any relief, only regret to this day. The baby was discovered 6 months later, but Jessica would get caught 6 years later. The police were adamant they were looking for a psychopathic male killer. Meanwhile, Jessica was abusing alcohol and narcotics to ease the pain of her own actions. It was in 2005, and Jessica and her new boyfriend Matt were chatting in a bar when she had a nervous breakdown and told him everything she had done. Someone overheard this and reported it to the sheriff. Both Jessica and Tom were brought in. Tom was sentenced to 3 years and got out after 13 months. Jessica pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter and child endangerment. She served 6 years in prison. Just like Skylar Richardson, Jessica made a decision that ruined her life, scared that having a baby would ruin her life. Since these cases, a new law appeared stating that any mom could leave her newborn anonymously at a hospital or police station without having to go to prison. This protects scared teenagers like Skylar or Jessica from destroying their and their babies' lives. What do you think about these cases? Should there be better laws surrounding teenage pregnancies? Let me know what you think down in the comment section, and before you go, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to the channel. Sleep tight!